amid all of this, the fact is that victory for Iran is quite simple.
So Piers Morgan just delivered a brutal takedown of Netanyahu's war strategy and Trump's Iran gamble. And he's absolutely right about the political catastrophe unfolding. This is masterful analysis of how military adventures become electoral disasters. Let's break down why this war was doomed from the start.
If the regime survives with its autonomy, Iran will claim victory. Victory for the United States and Israel is a lot more complicated. Many roads do seem to lead to a new Iran, which is a lot like the old Iran, but even more aggressive.
This asymmetric warfare dynamic is crucial. Iran just has to survive to win, like the Viet Cong in Vietnam or the Taliban in Afghanistan. America needs total regime change, which history shows is nearly impossible. The bar for victory is impossibly high for the stronger power.
It could be subdued, possibly for months or even years, but with a greater incentive than ever to arm itself and attack. That's why people are legitimately worried about a long and deadly conflict. And that's why people like Senator Lindsey Graham, who has threatened everywhere from Lebanon to Spain in the last week, are working overtime to sell the benefits of war.
Graham's escalating threats to Spain and Lebanon show the desperation of war hawks who promised a quick knockout punch. When your strategy isn't working, you expand the target list. Classic mission creep that turned Iraq into a regional nightmare lasting over a decade.
US media is reporting today that US military investigators believe American forces were responsible for the deadly strike on an Iranian primary school that's believed to have killed over 100 children. It looks a lot like a tragic accident on an enormous scale. If President Trump and his administration want to build public support for this war, they should very quickly face up to it and apologize. And they should very quickly tell Lindsey Graham to respectively keep his mouth shut.
Those civilian casualties are devastating American credibility across the Muslim world. In Iraq, Abu Ghraib and wedding bombing incidents turned entire populations against us. When you kill children, you create a generation of enemies, exactly what Iran wants.
Or actually, Gideon Levy, there hasn't been a war that I can remember in modern times where there hasn't been a majority support from the American people once it started, and there isn't for this. It's an unpopular war. The majority of Americans do not want America to be waging this war.
The missing rally around the flag effect is historically unprecedented. Even Vietnam had initial majority support. Trump promised no more Middle East wars to win 2024, and now 60% of Americans oppose this conflict according to recent polling. A political disaster.
They've seen prices at the gas pump now rocketing in the last 2 weeks. This is the biggest turmoil for oil prices in history that has already happened in the first 2 weeks and could get a hell of a lot worse. So purely from that perspective, I think Donald Trump politically has taken an enormous gamble here.
Gas prices are political kryptonite. Every 10-cent increase drops presidential approval by 2 points historically. We're seeing 40-cent jumps in 2 weeks. Carter lost in 1980 partly over energy prices, and Biden's approval cratered with inflation. This kills presidencies.
And coupled with that, there's a sense that Israel has a different objective here. That Israel will be quite happy if this all plunges Iran into total anarchic chaos, a bit like happened in Syria. And that would suit Israel's longer-term needs and wants, which it kind of just reduces it to anarchy. Whereas that would not suit the United States. So there could be two different sort of missions here where Israel's quite happy if this just drags on and on and on and is a bit of a disaster. But the United States would find that very, very difficult to manage.
This strategic divergence is exactly what happened in Vietnam. South Vietnam wanted total American commitment, while we sought limited engagement. Israel benefits from regional chaos that weakens Iran's proxies, but America gets stuck managing the mess for decades.
And of course, Netanyahu was in deep political peril after October the 7th because people were blaming him for allowing it to happen on his watch. He was facing a criminal trial that's been put on the back burner. He's seen his personal popularity rising at the same rate that he's been bombing places. And he's probably doing the maths and working out quite cynically, because he can be very cynical, that the best way for his own political preservation is to carry on doing what he's doing, which is settling all the scores. I mean, he made it clear that Iran was a 40-year project for him, which was finally happening.
Classic diversionary war theory in action. Margaret Thatcher used the Falklands to boost approval ratings. Putin invaded Ukraine facing domestic unrest. Netanyahu's corruption trial was set to resume before October 7th. War is his political lifeline, not America's interest.
Congressman Mills, I mean, politically, it's a massive, stupendous roll of the dice by Donald Trump. The midterm elections are coming in November. Historically, a president in his position would normally probably lose the House. That's expected to happen. But now there's lots of rumblings this may cost him the Senate, which would basically leave him a completely lame duck for the last 2 years of his presidency. And right now, he can keep saying this is all over, we've won, and so on. But the reality on the ground, which we can all see with our own eyes, is very different.
The 2006 midterms destroyed Republicans over Iraq. They lost both chambers. Unpopular wars always hurt the president's party. With Trump's approval already underwater on this war, Republicans could face a 2008-style wipeout where Obama gained supermajorities everywhere.
But it's also true that the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, pretty well completely closed, if that goes on for much longer, the enormous damage that is causing to the global economy, coupled with the attacks they've been making on all the neighboring Gulf states, trying to clearly intimidate tourists from going there, which is the new business model for many of those states. You know, this could be incredibly damaging and makes the word victory look a little bit more complex.
The Strait of Hormuz carries 21% of global oil. It's the ultimate economic choke point. Iran knows they can crash the world economy by keeping it closed. They've turned their geographic advantage into a nuclear weapon against global markets.
I mean, it seems that the key part of all this sort of economic strangulation, if you like, by Iran is the Strait of Hormuz. We've already seen in the last few hours today that the successor to Ayatollah Khomeini, his son, has come out. Apparently, we haven't seen him or heard from him directly, but there's a statement in which he talks about keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed indefinitely. If that was to happen, what would be the consequences for the global economy, and how soon would we see those consequences?
Indefinite closure would trigger immediate recession. Oil hitting $200 per barrel, supply chains collapsing, inflation spiking globally. The 1973 oil embargo caused massive stagflation that lasted years. Iran can hold the world economy hostage with geography alone.
If you put all this together, is what's happening now in terms of the tactics that Iran are deploying, including the threats to desalination, but also targeting, obviously, targeted hotels and airports and so on, going to the heart of what the states there would like to see as the future of their economy, which is tourism, sport, entertainment, clearly designed to scare people away from that. Is this now representing an existential threat, do you think, to the business model of the GCC states going forward?
Saudi Arabia and UAE spent hundreds of billions building tourism economies, Formula One, golf tournaments, luxury resorts. Iranian attacks on hotels and airports destroy that entire Vision 2030 strategy. They're weaponizing economic transformation against American allies.
Given that Donald Trump campaigned so vociferously that he wasn't going to take America into any more wars, particularly in the Middle East, and he was going to sort out the economy and sort out the cost of living, are you comfortable that he's now launched the biggest war in the Middle East imaginable, and it's having such a huge effect on the economy? He says this is all a price worth paying. Do you agree with that?
Trump's 2024 campaign was built on America first. No foreign wars, fix the economy, bring troops home. Now he's launched the biggest Middle East war since Iraq, while gas prices skyrocket. This betrays everything he promised his base.